Thank you, Matt, for that kind introduction. My father would have enjoyed that, and my mother would have believed it. Do you remember the story in there where he talks about teaching his son how to take care of the yard? He called it green and clean. Some of you do? Yeah. Well, I'm green and clean. And I came here this morning to give you my side of the story. Because I've been taking it on the chin for the last 37 years. So you ready for my side? All right. It's very simple. I was framed. So I ran into the house and I came out with 2 garbage sacks. And I gave one of them to him and one to me. And I said, Dad, would you go over there and clean up that garbage? It makes me want to vomit. So he said, I'm your helper, son. Whatever you want, I'll go do. So he goes over and starts to clean up the garbage. And it was at that moment that I became green and clean. Because I realized, I'm responsible here. I'm in charge. Look, he's doing my job. So this is what management is all about, I thought. But I want to frame trust in a different light, perhaps something that you've not done before. And I really have 3 primary goals. Let me just state them. I'll come back to these several times. The first is, I want to make a business case for trust. A business case for trust. The second is, I want to show how, in fact, trust is the critical leadership competency of this new economy, of Web 2.0, of everything that you're doing. The ability to generate trust is the key competency. And then the third point is I want to spend the bulk of our time on how you can get good at engendering trust. You personally as a leader, your association, because this is what you're all about. So the reality is this. You can teach it. You can learn it. You can understand it. You can apply it. You can measure it. You can quantify it. You can get better at it. You can improve it personally and as an association. I've talked about how there's low trust in our society and also in the marketplace and in our companies. Well, there is. The best way to solve that is to work from the inside out as opposed to the outside in. It's best to diagnose from the outside in, but to work, to develop from the inside out, starting with ourselves. And the great thing about associations is that you can affect all 5 of these levels. Trust is the starting place for an association, but let's never assume it and never take it for granted, especially because of the low trust world all around us. One reason why legal communication can be so expensive and time-consuming is because in most cases it's based upon low trust, and in some cases even no trust. As a result, it takes a lot of time, costs a lot of money. So trust affects everything. In all our communication, in our ability to collaborate, to partner, to innovate, to execute our strategies, the presence or absence of trust will change the trajectory of every activity we're engaged in. And it's especially important as a leader and as an association whose leadership role is trust to its members, to its industry, its trade, its profession. And so this is vital that we learn this and get good at it. Not just understand it, but get good at this. Turn this into our strength. You're the arbiters of trust. You're the creators of trust. It's your currency. But at the same time, when low trust is happening in our society, it also affects you. There's a risk to it. And we've got to counteract that. We've got to turn it into our strength. So rather than become susceptible to the risk, we become a catalyst to change it and to accelerate the trust. The opposite of that, distrust, is suspicion. See, I don't trust someone when I'm suspicious about their agenda or their motive or their integrity or their capabilities or their track record. I don't trust them. I'm suspicious. I do trust them when I'm confident. Jack Welch said, I could give you a dictionary definition of trust, but you know it when you feel it. Now, the challenge is this. When we see this low trust all around us in our society, when we see these scandals happen, our confidence begins to go down. Our suspicion goes up. We start to wonder what else is out there. When's the other shoe going to drop? And we become more cynical and distrusting. It tends to become a vicious downward cycle unless offset. And that's the danger of this low trust being everywhere around us, is it literally can creep into every facet of society. It's not just the social virtue. If trust were merely a social virtue, you might say, yeah, it's unfortunate there's not trust here. You know, it'd be more pleasant if there were, but that's the reality. Not acceptable. The reality is this: trust is economic. It's having an impact, and it's much higher than you think. I recently flew into and out of a high-risk airport in the Middle East where the trust is very low for obvious geopolitical reasons. When I left that country, I needed to arrive 4 hours before my flight. My bag was then unpacked and repacked a couple of different times. I was interrogated a couple of different times, and I was treated like everybody else. But the trust was so low that it had to take great steps to prop it up, for which I was grateful, but it came at a price. Speed went way down, cost went up. Speed and cost, always affected by trust. Let's take the opposite. When trust goes up, speed goes up, cost comes down. Warren Buffett doing this deal, high trust. Trust goes up, he does a deal in less than a month instead of a year. No due diligence cost instead of spending millions. Speed went up, cost went down. So the point is, when you can increase the trust, speed will go up, cost will go down. That is a dividend. It's real and practical, just like low trust is a tax. It works both directions.